Hello, everyone. Thank you, Nate, for putting this together. So, before Histio, I was just a regular person who grew up in Northern Virginia, suburbs of DC. I was on my high school's dance team. Like Sydney, I danced. I went to Virginia Tech to enjoy the college experience, and then I came back to Northern Virginia to begin my career in real estate for our local government. But through it all, what I wanted most was to be a mom. Ty, if you could introduce yourself in one sentence, what would it be?
My name is Todd, and I like playing video games and I'm basically just average middle school kid, except
Histio. What do you love and what makes you you?
I like archery, rock climbing, stuff like that, calisthenics, and Histio makes me different.
So I am going to just read. I always dreamt of having a child, so the day I found out I was pregnant with Ty was the best. Ty could dance to music before he could sit up. Seriously, while he was laying on his back, he'd do the salsa type hip leg move thing while laying down. By 4 months, he was sleeping through the night. We'd put him down at 7, and we'd have the next 12 hours to ourselves. Ty was a great eater. He ate fruits and vegetables every day. He was the perfect baby. Then came histiocytosis. At 8 months, he stopped eating while he was awake. We had to wait until he was asleep and swap the passy for a bottle to feed him. Ty's pediatrician said he was just teething, and she kind of laughed at me. She told me I was a nervous first-time mom and to come back in 2 weeks if he didn't start eating. I needed a second opinion, so after a week and a half, I asked my aunt, who's a pediatrician, to look at him. She was working that night and accepts our insurance, so I brought him in. She was about to send us home when she looked at the blood work drawn by Ty's pediatrician and saw that his white blood cell count was high. Ty's pediatrician was so sure that I was crazy, even after a week and a half, she never looked at his blood work. My aunt ordered an x-ray, and Ty looked like he had pneumonia. After 3 days of IV antibiotics, Ty got worse and was admitted to the hospital. After another week of IV antibiotics, Ty's white blood cell count continued to increase, so they ran extra tests and found a tumor behind his heart and in front of his spine that his heart was beating up against. It caused a pericardial effusion, or fluid accumulation around his heart, and within 48 hours, Ty had a blood transfusion, biopsy that was supposed to be laparoscopic, but it turned into a thoracotomy, which means they had to open him up and he was intubated or put on a breathing machine. Ty was sedated and intubated because they accidentally punctured his lung, bronchi, and trachea, and was moved from the oncology department to the pediatric ICU department, PICU. They expected to extubate him or take him off the breathing machine within 24 hours of surgery, but the tumor had grown too big and he could no longer breathe on his own. The tumor was not only causing the heart issue, and crushing his lung, it was also blocking his superior vena cava, causing his upper body to swell. Shortly after the botched biopsy, we expected results, but we didn't get results for almost another 2 weeks. We were told that it wasn't cancer. The pathologist said that the tumor appeared to be Juvenile Xanthogranuloma, or JXG, but the JXG doesn't appear on lungs, only on skin. And Ty didn't have anything on his skin, so it couldn't be JXG. Doctors from ICU, oncology, and infectious disease and the hospitalist didn't know what he had. So the tissue was shipped off to a granuloma expert. Our first Thanksgiving with Ty was not how you envision your first Thanksgiving with your baby. The fluid that built up around his heart needed to be drained, so the first half of our Thanksgiving was spent in cardiac surgery. When time came out of that okay, I went to the chapel, got on my knees, and thanked God and prayed and thanked God. The day after Thanksgiving, during PICU rounds, we were told that they had waited as long as they possibly could. They had to try and treat Ty with something, even though they were running the risk of making him worse and killing him. We were unbelievably happy and lucky. I'm sorry. We were unbelievably lucky that day. The expert pathologist diagnosis was found on the fax machine. Yes, found. It had been sitting on the fax machine for 2 days, and Ty was confirmed to have mediastinal JXG. We met a hematologist oncologist who had heard of JXG growing on internal organs and had a treatment lined up. They confirmed that the JXG was local. It was only the one very large tumor, and began chemotherapy, steroids, and an anti-cancer medication called anakinra. In the beginning, when Ty was intubated, the lines on his breathing monitor were blue. That was because the machine was breathing for him. Each day after he started chemotherapy, the blue lines turned more pink. Pink meant that Ty was pushing the breath and not the machine. I cannot explain the relief and happiness I felt each day watching that blue line turn pink. After 3 days of treatment, Ty was extubated, or pulled off the breathing machine. And like many histio warriors, Ty continued chemotherapy for a year. Ty, how do you think your life would be different if you didn't have histio?
I wouldn't have these cool scars.
I think I learned more during that month in that hospital with Ty than I did in all my 39 years before that. Medicine is science, but it's also about probability. If the doctors can't see anything physically wrong, they will go whatever the probability is. JXG is usually limited to the skin. It's the most common form of non-Langerhans cell histiocytosis, and Dr. Osama can probably speak more to this. But because of how rare it is, it wasn't likely that Ty had histio. It wasn't likely that he had JXG. So he looked good, he sounded good, they thought he was okay. Except none of the doctors treated him knew that JXG could appear on internal organs, and that wasn't okay with me. During the hospital stay, we had incredible support. I'm Filipino, and for Filipinos, food is how we show love. So anyone that visited us brought us food. My sister would order us takeout because she couldn't come during the week. In ICU, you can't store food. There's not a refrigerator. So the fact that people were bringing us food and giving Sean and I, Ty's dad, money like for the cafe and gift card for the cafe was so helpful. Any visitors brought anything else I needed. Nail files, comfy clothes, laundry detergent because we were there for so long, hand sanitizer. One colleague even brought her husband, who's a pastor, and he prayed over Dr. Guerrera, the oncologist, who just minutes after the prayer gave Ty his first chemo. And my colleagues donated leave. Ty was still a baby, so I had exhausted all my leave from having him with maternity leave. And my colleagues came together to make sure my pay was covered and our insurance was covered. For a few years after, the support remained incredible. We joined the Histio hike in Shenandoah, and first few years we had very large team, raised a lot. Everyone in our circle was sharing Ty's story, so we were spreading awareness. Because of the support from that, we started a Star Wars themed 5K here in Northern Virginia. Ty, how do you think Histio has impacted your relationships with your friends? Are they curious about it? What about your friends that came to the hike?
Dang it, bro, I can't think.
Pass?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Ty's friends, two of his friends this year joined us on the Histio hike, and his friends come to the race when they can. It's very early in the morning, but they make it. But now that he's, 12 years out, the support is very different, and I try not to let it upset me. The race participation is diminishing. Last year, we only had 6 participants participate. But this year, I have hope. I wasn't going to do it again this year. A lot of the people that missed the race last year have reached out and they want to come this year. And one of my colleagues, after hearing Ty's story, he has to do the physical testing for his job at the Park Authority where I work. And he's going to conduct one of his physical testings for his staff at our race. So even though Ty's been in remission or no active disease for a while, we're never going to give up on spreading awareness and sharing his story. But I did have one family member tell me that Ty's fine, and I've been asking for too much for too long for Histio, a family member. But I'll never forget almost losing my baby. And after Ty, silly me, I thought no one would ever go undiagnosed again with systemic JXG. But recently, a baby was only a few weeks old, was born with JXG on her skin. She was very sick and she was in the hospital, and they didn't know what she had, and she passed away. And turns out she had JXG on her liver. Since she had JXG on her skin and had other symptoms, in reading it, I didn't understand why they didn't do a scan to check her other organs. She may have survived. I looked for support after we had a diagnosis. I wanted and needed to talk to people who understood. I needed people to not say, oh, good, he's out of the woods, or oh, good, it's not cancer. Are we lucky? Yes, but histio is not good. In general, people don't know the effects of steroids and chemotherapy, especially in children and infants. They just listen for the word remission. They don't know that chemotherapy in children can cause neurocognitive disorder or stunt growth because it affects bone density. In fact, just during our break, I got a call from Ty's oncologist saying that his bone density is not where it should be for a child his age. So we will be making an appointment with an endocrinologist. People don't know that because of the high amounts of steroids Ty had to take, he had to start being monitored for cataracts at age 10. When I requested that Ty's eyes be checked for cataracts, the person at the front desk at the doctor's office laughed at me. And during COVID, some of my closest friends and family didn't understand Ty's risks since his JXG was on his lungs and he did suffer some damage to his lungs. So some of those relationships have been hurt and some have ended, and it's just like feeling the hurt and frustration all over again. I need people to know how much it breaks your heart to tell your parents your son has a tumor. We decided to let my mom hold Ty when we told them. We thought it would hurt her a little less, and maybe it did, but I will never forget the vision of my mom holding him, and when we told her, she just laid her head on his back and started crying and closed her eyes. My dad has never taken his blue histio bracelet off. After extubation, my mom wanted to FaceTime. So I tried to put baggy clothes on Ty and take a picture and send it to my mom in hopes of her not wanting to FaceTime and in hopes of her not noticing that he had lost 5 pounds, which was a quarter of his body weight. But she's my mom and you can't put anything past her. The first thing she mentioned was how skinny he was. Babies double in size in their first year of life, but Ty had lost a quarter of his. For the equity piece, one of the reasons I stay involved is because I'm Asian. I'm Filipino. Ty's dad is Caucasian. There were moments when certain doctors were only talking to Sean and not me. And there were moments when I was speaking, but they would look and respond only to Sean. One time during rounds, I was walking into Ty's room and overheard the doctor saying that a certain test for Ty hadn't come in yet, but it had. I made eye contact with one of the doctors and told them that it had arrived. It had come back and it was negative, but it was like I wasn't even there. It was like I was invisible. But when those same doctors mentioned it to Sean, he told them it was negative and they heard and saw Sean. On Thanksgiving, the day of Ty's cardiac surgery, during rounds, they informed me that they were ready to take out the chest tube they put in during the biopsy. Pulling the chest tube could cause some bleeding, so they told me that they would pull it after the surgery. That way, if there was bleeding during the surgery, they'd know where the blood was coming from. So later that morning, before the surgery, a resident came in to pull the chest tube. I told him that wasn't supposed to occur until after the surgery. The resident told me, one thing has nothing to do with the other. I'm pulling it. I explained more why he should not do that and what they said during rounds, but he continued to set up to pull the tube. I asked him to please wait until someone could come in and confirm. He insisted on pulling it at that moment. Meanwhile, Sean was pretending to be asleep. He woke up. I thought he was asleep. And he was listening the whole time. He wanted to see if the resident would listen to me. It wasn't until Sean spoke up with his eyes still closed and said, "Get away from our baby," that the resident finally backed off. To this day, this still makes me wonder how leading care and advocating for your family is if you're in the US and English isn't your first language. We were lucky to have good support and good jobs, so we never had to leave Ty's side. We never left the hospital while Ty was there. So how do you lead care if you can't be there with your baby because you have to go to work? I can only imagine. I stay involved with Histio so I can be the friend that a newly diagnosed family needs. I found one mom in the Philippines who was looking for chemo for her baby. She posted on the Histiocytosis Association page. She'd already lost one baby to LCH. After that baby passed, the baby's twin sister was diagnosed with LCH and surviving because of chemo. I try to keep up with her as best I can. I hate that our Histio family is growing, but I'm glad we have each other. Ty is still loved so much. I know no one will ever forget what he went through, but I found the most understanding support from my Histio family. Even now that Ty is 12 and status has remained no active disease since November 2013, and he's been chemo-free for 11 years, feelings like our Histio journey always creep up, sometimes when I least expect it, like the smell of hand soap at the doctor's office or driving into the parking garage at Children's Hospital in DC and seeing kids in the clinic getting their chemo. For me, I know we're lucky. I see a bright, healthy future for Ty, but I won't stop spreading awareness and participating in everything I am able to end Histio. Ty, how do you see your future, your identity, your purpose?
I see it with me not having to. How can I put this? I see it with Histio not affecting me as much, and me just being a normal person with like nothing wrong with me. If that makes sense.
Healthy.
Yeah.
Like Histio didn't happen. We did have one doctor say after we figured, after we learned that that it was Histio and that the treatment was working, one of the doctors said, you know what, this is just going to be a blip in his, if all goes well, this could very well be just a little blip in his long life and medical history. Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you so much for sharing, Michelle. Thank you, Ty. I want to ask you, Ty, you're in seventh grade now, right? And
Yeah.
school just started. What's your favorite part of it so far?
Being able to get up so often, or like, yeah, so often compared to elementary school is nicer because I feel like at elementary school, all that sitting down was like depressing me.
Yeah,
Like, I feel good that I get to stretch my legs every once in a while.
that's good. Do you have any favorite subjects yet?
Not really, no. They're all
Okay.
like the same. History's interesting. It's always been interesting.
So I'm wondering, I know you do a lot, you're very active, you do the hype, and you're a kid. So I'm wondering, what would you say brings you joy right now? This year, if you can look back, you had history when you were younger, but I want to know what brings you joy, what makes you laugh, and what do you enjoy about just being a kid and in remission right now?
I enjoy making my friends laugh, playing video games, jumping on my trampoline, shooting my bow and arrow when I'm able to, rock climbing when I'm able to. Already said those two. Stuff like that.
Awesome. And then my last question for you before we move on, and there may be some more questions for you later, who knows? People may ask you some. But Star Wars, big part of your life. Who is your favorite character and why is Star Wars so meaningful to you?
Probably say that Boba Fett is my favorite character because
Okay.
he's cool. I've always liked him the most, or maybe not always, but I've liked him the most that I can remember. And I really just like I felt more connected to it when I was younger because my like uncommon name was kind of in it, as well as like another show that I liked when I was much younger. It was like a kid show.
Hmm.
I don't really know how to explain.
No, I think
Clearly,
that's perfect.
other 3 5 words.
Great.
I appreciate you, Ty. Thank you so much. I know that Ty's running us post school. So I thank you for even making the time to come and join us, Ty.